Have you been thinking about opening a private practice, but you're not sure you have what it takes, or you know exactly what's involved, or you even know where to begin? If the answer is yes, then this video is for you. First thing we're going to do is ask yourself a few questions to make sure this is something you really want to do. By asking yourself these questions, it's going to help you clarify your goals, your expectations, and your readiness to start this journey. So let's begin. The first question we need to ask: why do you want to start and be a private practice? Is it because you're tired of the politics of a hospital, or is it something else? By knowing your why, that's what you're going to keep coming back to when you're going through this journey and things get tough. It's important to know your why. The second thing, are you prepared for the responsibilities of running your practice? It involves not just taking care of patients, but also managing staff. And while you can hire people to help you manage staff, there's so many other things involved by owning your own practice. So you need to know that you're going to be in charge of a lot of different. The third thing, have you started saving monies to use for retainers, deposits, and other expenses? It's important to go ahead and start saving money now before you get into things. The next thing I would say, you have a business plan in place. Again, these are things we can get going later, but go ahead and start figuring out what your mission statement is and things like that. And do you have a support network in place? Do you have a business consultant that you can use to ask questions? A mentor? People like that are really going to help you throughout this journey. So think about who you want in place that you can go talk to. People like me as a business consultant will help guide you and make sure you're on the next, or you're doing the next steps that it takes correctly. Okay? So ask yourself these questions, and if you have answered yes and you're ready to go, well then let's get going. So the first thing I want you to do is think about these things before you go out and quit your job. All right? Don't just get pissed off and decide I'm opening a practice and quit or turn in your notice and not have a plan in place. So have these things in place before you quit your job. One of the first things you're going to need to do, and not everybody's going to have this, but if you happen to have like a phone number and a location that you already own or lease and the hospital's reimbursing you or something like that, that would be your ideal situation, because you're always going to be there and your patients already know how to get a hold of you and where you're located. Now, this isn't a deal breaker, so if you don't have that, which most people don't, that's okay, but it's a nice to have, right? The next thing I would say is go ahead and start your business plan. I do offer a business plan template that we use when I help physicians start their own practice. I will put a link to it in the video, but get your business plan started. It's super important to have that going, because that's what you're going to give the banks to get money. Next thing we talked about, start saving money. Ideally, you want to have a minimum of $25,000 that you can start using towards, again, retainers and things like that, deposits for your location, all that kind of stuff. So just go ahead and start saving money. A goal should be $25,000. Also, you need to have an idea of what you want your business name to be. Go through the Secretary of the State, see if they have, if it's taken, if it's something available, look for that kind of stuff. Get an idea of what you want your business name. You could also hire a lawyer to get it for you, to save it, so that way it's yours. Those are the first few things I want you to do and have in place before you quit your job. Once you quit your job, we can get going to the next steps. So let's discuss more about what you need in a business plan. So let's start with what you need to have in your business plan. Starting a new company is exciting, but it's important to have a solid plan in place. A business plan is like a roadmap for your medical practice success. It's going to help you attract investors, like a bank, and it's going to give you the opportunity to have a successful plan in place, right? So the first thing we need to talk about is have an executive summary. Executive summary is like a gateway to your plan. It's going to be an overall view of who you are as a company. It could have your mission statement, who you are, what you represent, what kind of patients you want to talk to and work with and help, that kind of stuff. The next thing is you want to have a market analysis. It's kind of like an understanding of why you're different than your competitors down the street, what makes you different, what sets you apart, how much competition is there, that kind of stuff. Put a little bit of that in there. Next thing you want to have is a business model. How is your practice going to run? Yes, you're going to see patients, they'll check in, your normal kind of stuff. If you're a direct primary care office, kind of what's the structure of that? It kind of goes with how you're going to make money in a way. I mean, this all really ties together, but your market analysis or your business model, is just like a cost structure of how you're going to charge patients. If it's monthly, if it's subscription, if it's just billing insurance, and that could be X amount of dollars to X amount of dollars, depending on what they need, obviously. Your next thing is going to be marketing and your sales strategy. Obviously, you're going to be putting on getting referrals from physicians. Maybe you put in there, go market yourself once a quarter, once a month. You're going to have some social media pages. You're going to be on Google. Maybe you're going to advertise in magazines, things like that. The next thing you're going to have is a financial projection. This is super important. This is what banks look at. So ideally, you want to have a 1-year plan in place. You could do it monthly, have a solid 1-year plan in place, and then maybe projections for 5 years. Now remember, you are going to ramp yourself up. So if you're a physician who's already established and you're leaving a hospital, you have a solid plan of and a good idea of like what your numbers are, right? Just pay attention to what you're doing now. How many injections are you doing a month? What are your main things? Put the key things that you do every single month you're doing on patients, and put like how many of those you do a month, how much your reimbursement is for each of those items. You'll take that times how many you do a month, and that's going to get you total for the month, right? Take that and put that in the system. So it gives you a good idea of how much you can expect. If you're starting from scratch and you're a resident coming out, then obviously your number is going to be slowly ramping up, and your numbers will be like, you'll be doing good to get 15 patients a month in the first month, and that's okay. Be patient with yourself. It's going to take time to get better. It's a process, right? So just remember, having a solid business plan in place, it's like the framework to whatever everything else that happens after that. It's going to be given to your business consultant. It's be given to your banker to show how much money you need. Because it's also going to be a section on like what expenses you need, right? Are you having a procedure room? Do you need to have a C-arm? So think of all your big expenses and your startup expenses. Those should be in there. So all your big ticket items need to be in there so you get an idea of how much you need to start with. And then you're also going to need an idea of what are you paying for salaries every single month. So you'll need to have money for, what you're paying every month, if that makes sense. Anyway, those are the things that are all going to be in your business plan. And this helps us get to the next step. So our next step, we're going to work on creating your company name. Okay. Creating your company name, if you've not already done this, is going to be, what is your entity? What entity formation? Like, are you going to be a PLLC? And again, you can use a lawyer to do this for you. You'll need to get tax ID numbers, an EIN number, your state license, all those kind of things. That's going to be your next step. Okay. So once you get your name established and you know what your entity is going to be, the next steps are going to be to get your team in place. And by your team, you want an executive team. It's like what I call it. You're going to need a banker, right? That's who's going to be giving you your money. You need a business consultant to help walk through the steps and make sure you're on track and make sure you're not missing any important steps or wasting your time and money doing these things. You need to have like a CPA or maybe a bookkeeper to kind of help you kind of get organized with everything in the beginning. A healthcare realtor is a really big one. That's somebody who's going to help you go out and find a location, either land to build on or a space to lease from. If you focus on a healthcare realtor, they're really good at knowing the exact industry that we're in, right? Which is physicians, dentists, med spas, like anything healthcare related, they specialize in it. So that's why I always like to get a healthcare realtor to kind of help, because they look at things. When looking at a location, some important things to remember: are you somebody who's going to operate at a hospital? What hospitals are you going to be associated with? You should be close to those hospitals in case you need it for whatever reason. Parking's a big deal. You want to have plenty of room to park for your patients. Your patients don't want to have to park far away. They like to be able to park and walk into your building. So parking's a really big deal. Cleanliness. Make sure this place is clean and not in a sketchy part of town, depending on what kind of client or patients you're wanting. Most likely you need to have a clean place that patients feel safe and that kind of stuff. Also signage. Is there a place for you to have like a big sign for your practice name? A lot of this stuff, well, your signage anyway, you can negotiate in your insurance you can negotiate in your leasing contracts, signage and things like that. And that's why it's important to have a healthcare realtor, because a healthcare realtor or even a contract lawyer knows what you can negotiate in your contracts. So they can end up saving you money, and it's important to utilize those. Okay, so have one of those on your side to can help you negotiate your insurance, or not insurance contracts, but your leasing contracts. And those are the few things I would say to keep in mind when looking for a location. Once you find a location, then you can start credentialing. You won't be able to start credentialing until you get a location. And credentialing is going to probably take you around, I would say, 6 months. It can take a while depending on what kind of insurances you're going to be contracted with. I will also say, if you're working still at a hospital or another practice, you can talk to your credentialer, let them know to kind of keep it on the down low, to be able to try to get you credentialed without telling your previous employer that that's what you're doing. They can do that for you, but you've got to say, I need you to not make sure that they don't know these things. So you keep it on the down low. But again, they can't do it until you have a location. So you got to get the location first. So once you've started credentialing, the next step's going to be figuring out what kind of staff you want, right? Probably a front desk and an MA if you're slim pickings and you're keeping it really simple. But depending on how, if you're already experienced and you've been established for a while, then you might need more of a team, right? So depending on all those things, figure that out. Figure out what you want to offer them, such as like what kind of benefits you want to offer. PTO, paid time off is a big one. Typically employees get about 2 weeks, but they can ramp up to the 2 weeks. And typically it starts working in 90 days after their start date. So that's a good one. As far as insurance goes, it's important to have or offer some kind of an insurance. Now, while having insurance for your employees would be super expensive, a couple other options could be get a direct primary care provider near you, somebody you like and trust. You can work something out with them to where you can offer all your employees a subscription to the primary care physician. And if you want to even offer it and extend it to their spouses, you can do that too. So that's one option. Another option would be maybe you put money towards one of their insurance plans. So as long as they provide proof that they have insurance, you give them X amount of dollars a month towards their insurance. That's another option. It's rare that a small provider for a private practice actually pays, all of their employees' insurance. Does it happen? Yes. Is it super nice? Yes. But it's really hard on a private practice, especially when in the beginning and getting started. So there's other options. Keep that in mind. The next thing you're going to do once you kind of have a plan in place of your staff, you're going to figure out a start date. When are you planning to start? Remember, there's going to be a ramp up period. But before we get started, we're going to be doing some marketing to try to get patients to call in ahead of time, which is why it might be nice to have somebody who can answer somebody to answer the phone and get patients scheduled prior to opening. So remember those things. Okay. Once you've come up with a start date, we're going to focus on marketing. Marketing is a really big deal to help get patients start calling and getting them on the books, so that when your opening day arrives, you actually have a patient scheduled for the day, or 2 or 3 or whatever. Anything would be great. At least one, right? So for marketing, you're gonna put together a list of doctors that you already know, especially maybe primary care physicians or physicians that can refer you business. Make a list of the ones you already know, and then go out and introduce yourself and let them know what you're doing. Let them know your start date, how you can help their patients. Also make a list of doctors that you don't know, but who also could be a good potential referral network. If you're private practice, start with other private practice physicians, because as you know, physicians who are in hospital networks tend to have to keep referrals within their network. So start with private practices. However, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes if they keep it within their network and those people are really busy and they want somebody to be seen quickly, guess what? You're available to see patients quickly. So let them know that. Create a business page on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure you have your logos and a few things. It doesn't have to be a huge, thing with tons of posts, but at least have a couple. I would put a post, stating your start date and open date, A great tool that you can use to create free, awesome templated posts is Canva, C-A-N-V-A, canva.com. It's free, so you can easily create some social media posts and be able to use them on your social media pages. Also, you need to create a Google My Business page so patients can find you. And then I would look at your local Chamber of Commerce and see if that is something that might be a good fit for you. It's good to be a part of them, at least in the beginning, because especially in the beginning, they will do like a big ribbon cutting ceremony for your practice. So you could do a big ribbon cutting ceremony for like the day before you open or that night you open, something like that. Kind of brings attention to your new business. So that's important. And then you also want to create some promotional items that you can use, not just within your practice, like your pens and things like that, and brochures that have like what you do that you can give to other patients or physicians. But you also want like a really cool, unique item you can do and leave for the physicians you go refer to. My company is really good at helping you figure out some cool, unique promotional items. I have other videos of things that you can use, but something cool that a doctor is going to actually save because it's funny or because they can use it, and then it'll remind them to refer patients to you. And then as far as patients go, if you ever go do community outreach, like events in public where you have a table, have something cool that you can give to patients. It's probably going to be different than what you would give to a doctor, but there's so many cool, unique items. Again, we can help with this, but something that a patient's going to save, whether it's a cool, funny magnet or something like that, something they say that they'll remember, oh yeah, I've got this issue, now I'm going to call the doctor, right? Those are really helpful. The next thing after you kind of get your marketing plan and everything set up, you're going to be looking at EMRs, right? It's important to make a list of everything that's super important to you, all your must-haves in an EMR. Then you could also make a list of like nice to have. Look at your EMRs and figure out, what you're used to from residency. Look at those, look at other ones, see what you like best, what's in your price range. There's some EMRs that are better for small private practices, and that's kind of what you want right now. A lot of them even offer billing options, so you can bill through the EMR. Then you don't necessarily have to have a full-time biller or part-time biller, but you do need to have somebody that can help, push the claims through the EMR. All right, opening week. This is exciting because you made it to opening week. You're going to be finishing off little loose ends. You've got your front desk person in place, answering phone calls and try to getting people scheduled. Just remember, once you do open, it's a learning process, right? You're going to be tweaking as you go. You're going to be creating your processes and procedures. Make sure every person has a job description of exactly what you need them to be doing. A lot of these younger people, you have to tell them exactly what you want. They don't really think outside the box. So just be open and honest, be open to ideas, have monthly meetings saying what we're doing well, what we need to improve on. It's going to be a learning process for everybody. Ideally, if you could hire somebody who's kind of already worked in a medical clinic, it'll make your life a little bit easier, and they have a lot of things that they can share and help you with. So as you embark in this journey of opening your private medical practice, just remember to be flexible and adaptable. You're going to encounter challenges along the way. It's normal, but view them as opportunities for growth and for learning. And while you have completed the steps outlined in this video, remember it's a process, and running a practice is it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? You're constantly growing and you're constantly figuring things out. And just when you start to figure things out, your practice is going to change and you're going to have to pivot and do a little bit of something different. And that's okay. Just remember that pivoting's normal, okay? And it's going to happen. So don't hesitate to seek support from trusted, business consultants and mentors. Even after you've opened your doors, their experience can really provide invaluable guidance as you navigate, doing this whole process. So I want you to take a moment also and acknowledge how far you've come. Be really proud of yourself. You've accomplished a lot just getting through med school alone, let alone residency and starting a practice or wherever you are. You should be proud of yourself. So, take a moment to appreciate what you've done. I'm going to put some key resources in the description below that can help you. But I hope you found this video helpful. there's a lot more to it, which is why when I do a practice startup with clients, we have weekly meetings to make sure we're on track and we're moving forward, because things always come up. And so it's just good to have an accountability partner to keep pushing you forward. So there's a lot more to this. We do offer a checklist. So if that's something you're interested in, I'll put that in the comments below. It has everything you need that's timeline based. So if you're somebody who likes to do things yourself, go get the checklist and figure it out and go for it. But I am always here if you need anything. Feel free to schedule a call with me, but good luck, and I'm excited for you.